and really gives you this really fluid movement that's actually quite fun to do and just feels really nice on the body. So for today's workout, focusing on mobility, the structure of today's workout is going to be backward and forward sled superset with a mobility movement. Um, the reason for picking the sled is that doing backward and forward sled have benefits in knee mobility or for knee mobility. So, and not only that, it adds a heavy component to the workout, so I'm able to keep my heart rate high and also challenge my body that way. So mobility work is usually pretty like light and is like stuff like stretching or things like that. And uh, one of the things that at least seems to me that deters people from doing mobility work is it doesn't seem intense enough to qualify as like a real workout. Uh, but one of the ways I've been able to get over that is by supersetting mobility movements with the sled so that I still feel like I'm doing something relatively intense while getting the mobility gains that come from doing the sled. Doing the sled is really good for knee mobility, toe mobility, and ankle mobility. Supersetting um, sled for this set with something called a trap 3 raise or a Y raise. So I'm going to support my chest on a bench and then use 2 kettlebells to pretty much raise the weight with a straight arm. Looks like this. At the end of each rep, I take a personal, like, I don't know, check to see what muscles are tight and if I'm really contracting the muscle that I want to contract and that no other muscle groups are necessarily taking over. In any case, the trap 3 raise targets a set of muscles called the trap 3. So usually most people are aware of the traps that are here, but there's trap 2 and trap 3. Trap 3 is located kind of like in the mid-back region, and it's very weak in most people since most people don't really train it. And weak trap 3 leads to shoulder mobility issues and lower back pain. So by training the trap 3, you're able to keep a lot of shoulder problems at bay and also keep a lot of lower back problems at bay. Gonna do this for 5 sets and then on to the next movement. So as mentioned earlier, the sled is going to remain a constant part of today's workout. It allows me to have a heavy component to my mobility training, which keeps the heart rate high, keeps the intensity high, gives some of the benefits of handling heavy load, while I'm also able to focus on mobility, which is relatively light. Um, for I'm also adding weight. So for the first movement, or for the first superset, I did just one plate on the sled, and now I'm up to 2 plates. I like slowly increasing the weight on the sled as the workout goes on. It allows me to, so like as the weight goes on, your body does have to work harder to move the weight, but since it's so gradual, uh, you don't really perceive the weight difference from set or from superset to superset, and as a result, I'm able to burn a lot more calories and uh, work harder feeling without necessarily feeling like it's heavyweight, if that makes sense. Anyway, for the mobility movement, I'm going to do cross bench pullovers, but I'm using a box and the Bosu ball. Using the Bosu ball allows me to keep a more natural, rounded position of the back, and as opposed to using a bench where when you're doing cross bench on a bench, it feels a little awkward to me. Anyway, movement looks like this. Chose to do alternate reps this time instead of doing it together. Uh, it's just a different stimulus compared to doing it both at the same time. Um, yeah, gonna do this for a bit, then on to something else. This exercise is good for opening up the chest, and it also targets a muscle called the serratus, so good for stretching the serratus and opening up the chest. So yeah, on to the next one. So as I said earlier, I'm not going to record the sled portion anymore. I'm just going to record the mobility exercises. Recording the sled over and over again gets kind of redundant. I might record one more set at the end, but for now, let's just go straight to the movement. So for the third mobility movement, doing the shoulder rotation exercises, shoulder rotation exercise. So pretty much you want to use a light weight or whatever weight you're comfortable with, and then you kind of want to swing side to side and get this momentum going. Your arm should be relaxed. It should pretty much just be dangling, and then using that momentum, you're going to bring it up, drop it, and then try to do this fluid motion to get the kettlebell up, and then also have it fall down. At no point am I actively moving the weight. Notice how my feet pivot and rotate, guiding the momentum. My hips move, my toes move, my whole body moves to facilitate the transfer of momentum and for the weight to follow the trajectory that it's following. There's like an ever so slight, so if I were to slow it down, so what's happening is it's dangling here, then it comes up here, then here, and like this whole area has to be relaxed. Right now it's tight, and so what's going to happen is this will want to fall. If it's loose, it'll want to fall either forward or backward. What I'm doing at that moment is rotating my body and letting it fall this way. That will fall and will want to come. So your arm is pretty much, think of it as like a thread attached to a point and like a pendulum. And so if you were to like have a pendulum move, it would like rotate along that point or like swing along that point. Except here, since it's your body and it's your shoulder, you can bend your elbow and also rotate your body to bring the weight up to here, let it fall, bring the weight up to here, let it fall, bring the weight up to here, let it fall. And by doing this, you'll find that it really loosens up the shoulder joint and really gives you this really fluid movement that's actually quite fun to do and just feels really nice on the body. So yeah, gonna do this and the sled for 5 sets like the previous ones, and then on to the next thing. So for the next mobility exercise, doing dang, I should know the name of this. Yeah, don't know the name. In any case, it's primarily adductor stretch, so the groin area. Going to use a kettlebell and hold it in rack position. Have one leg pointed out and facing away. Then with the kettlebell, I'm going to sit down till I feel a stretch in the adductor area, and then adductor, and then come back up. So looks like this. Optionally, you can come down, and then as you come up, press at the same time. But I won't be doing that today. Right now, I'm just focusing on the adductor mobility and the adductor stretch. You can also play around with your feet position, how far or close your feet's away from you, in order to exaggerate or reduce the stretch. Switching sides after 10 to 12. And by the way, the sled's still a common part of it. So yeah, this is a superset to the sled. But yeah, gonna do I think 4 sets of this. Doing 5 of each is getting kinda long and exhausting. Um, but yeah, on to the next one after this. So for the final set of exercises before I head into the sauna, gonna do the sled, and just thought I'd record my final set so that I can show like the idea of going heavy with each superset. So 5 different sets of exercises, 1 plate for each set of exercise, so up to 5 plates. Yeah, this is a pretty nice way to slowly up the intensity without necessarily it feeling too hard mentally. It might just be the way my mind works, but right now this doesn't feel too heavy or too taxing, even though there's quite a bit of weight on it. The slow, gradual increase over a period of. So, this whole workout's taken me around 2 hours. So, the weight's just been gradually going up over a period of 2 hours, so it really doesn't feel like much, at least for me. I also like to do some mobility and abs in the sauna, so that's where I usually do some of this kind of stuff. But yeah. And just so you notice, while I'm doing the forward sled drag, I'm landing on my toes, really focusing on driving from my big toe, utilizing my calves, quads, glutes, hamstrings. Then for the mobility movements, it's going to be 2 things. So the first movement is going to be a hip flexor strengthener. So I'm going to have a 10-pound kettlebell around each of my feet. Lay back down a little, and then bring one leg up at a time. Great movement for targeting the lower abs and the hip flexors. Going for 10 each side. And supersetting that with leg elevated ATG split squats as a hip flexor lengthener. So the previous movement strengthens it. This one's more of a lengthener. So keeping my back straight and looking up to exaggerate the stretch in the hip flexor and pushing back. Going for 8 each side. Yeah, so I'm gonna do this for 2 more sets for a total of 3 sets. Then head to the sauna. I decided to do one more exercise before I end the workout. So not supersetting this with the sled. It's a reverse Nordic. It's for quad and hip flexor mobility. It's a movement that I don't do very often, but it's a good, I guess, barometer for me to uh, keep track of how good my quad mobility is. When it's difficult to do, I kind of know that I've been slacking on my mobility work. If it feels relatively easy, then I know that I'm doing good. Anyway, the movement looks like this. No, no, no. So I'm gonna stay on my knees uh, and pretty much just lean back and try to get my back and head to the floor. So in that version, I'm not contracting my glutes. Now if I contract my glutes, it looks like this. Either version requires a lot of mobility. I personally prefer the glute contracted version. Anyway, yeah. Gonna do one more set of this and then head to the sauna. Haven't done a physique update in a while, so decided to do one while I wait for the bus. So I think in the beginning of this month, in a few videos, I had said my goal was to get super lean, and I think I am well on my way. The things that I'm doing differently are spending a lot of time in the park to get a tan, also focusing a lot more on keeping my heart rate high and having cardio, doing a lot more sprints when I'm outside, yeah, and then just reducing overall calories that I'm eating. Let's do a back pose. So yeah, I'd say I'm looking pretty good. But I want you guys to notice, if you guys go and watch yesterday's video, yesterday's video, I look a lot more bloated. So the reason I point these things out is that lighting makes a huge difference, and also whether or not my stomach is empty makes a huge difference. So if you guys ever feel like you're too fat or whatever, it might just be a thing of playing around with the food so that you're not so bloated. But yeah, that's my physique. I'm using my arm. What? Yeah, that's all for today's video. See you all tomorrow.